Coming up next on Ham Nation, we've got Dipoles, D-Star, The Last Man Standing TV show, as well as news from Amateur Radio Newsline, the solar update from Dr. T, and a lot more. That's next on Ham Nation.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This episode of Ham Nation is brought to you by Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Introducing Rate Shield Approval. If you're in the market to buy a home, Rate Shield Approval locks up your rate for up to 90 days while you shop. It's a real game changer. Learn more and get started at rocketmortgage.com/hamnation. And by Icom. For more information, visit icomamerica.com/hamnation. This is Ham Nation, episode number 366 for September 5th, 2018. Dipoles, D-Star, and Last Man Standing. Hey, good evening, everybody. It's Wednesday night. Bob Heil is off continuing to do Bob Heil things, which means the inmates are in charge of the asylum tonight. I'm Don Wilbanks, AE5DW. We've got Valerie, we've got George, and we've got a blowhard named Gordon. I'm sorry, that came through last night, went through Mobile. We have Gordon over in California. We'll get to him in just a second. But first, let's say hi to Valerie, because you know ladies first, and she's the prettiest of the bunch.
Hey, guys. Glad to be back. It's been a couple weeks, and I got a really fun video tonight. It's more entertainment, less instructional. So looking forward to showing that, and really looking forward to 2 weeks from now. I'm going to be doing the show live from WTWW in Tennessee. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Back to you.
That's neat. And of course, you know, you can hear WTW, or you can hear Ham Nation on WTWW. We're simulcasting right now. 5085 and 15810. If you got something you'd like to email them, email at WTWW.us. And you know, they've changed the name of that thing. They're now calling it The Big One. They're playing greatest hits of Top 40 and some of the best Top 40 disc jockeys from around the country. We're talking big name Detroit, Los Angeles guys. And some schmuck from Mississippi is going to be on there, too, before too much longer. So there goes the neighborhood. Speaking of there goes the neighborhood, just slightly to my north where it is raining. I don't think we got anything from Tropical Storm Gordon. George, are you staying dry up there in the remnants?
No, we got it all right here, Don.
I bet you did.
I think it camped out just when you think it's gone. And I say, I'll leave the umbrella in the house. You come back and it's pouring down. It's been doing that all day. So I've got this new handy talkie here I've been trying out. I hadn't heard anything on it yet, but we'll be talking about this a little bit later in the show. And I wanted to mention the D-Star QSO party is coming up toward the end of the month on September 22nd, 0 UTC to 2400 UTC. It's the D-Star QSO party 2018. So go learn more about that, and you D-Star folks. Fun event coming up there. I'll be back a little later, though, and I think maybe we'll get this thing working here, Don.
Cool. You know, I will be in Oklahoma that weekend, meeting my sister for the first time ever. That's going to be cool, my 40th high school reunion. I might have to bring this little guy with me, too, and get on some of the repeaters up around Oklahoma City and Norman, and see if I can make a D-Star contact or two. All right, so we had to deal with Tropical Storm Gordon last night coming ashore, thankfully, around the Mobile, Alabama, Pascagoula, Mississippi area, right on that Alabama-Mississippi border. So we didn't get any of it. I went to bed last night and was not awakened a single time, which was nice. So from one blowhard named Gordon to another, how are you tonight, sir?
I am just fine. All is well here. We have no hurricanes, no red tides, but we have a huge weekend coming up for Boxborough. The big New England get-together in Boxborough is going to happen on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I've been to the Boxborough Hamfest. wooded area, a wonderful resort. Those going to Boxborough, you are going to love it. As Valerie was able to Google it, take a look and see all the events they have coming up. And then next weekend, the WIN system, that is the IRLP, Wide Internet System, is going to be having its get-together in Buellton, California. And I'll be on the WIN system 14, 15, and 16 on our communications van in Buellton. And also, a week from this Sunday, the Gloucester Amateur Radio Club will be hosting the ARRL Southern New Jersey Section Convention, and they'll have a great time. Don, back to you, and then you let me know when we're going to talk about antennas and the antennas shorts.
Well, we're going to do that momentarily, but first, of course, I'm going to tell you some other things that are coming up tonight. Valerie stuff, of course, coming up. We've got a little video, a look back at the Huntsville Hamfest from one of the attendees there that does some really cool video stuff, and he's got a seriously decent beard. And we'll have the solar weather with Dr. Tamitha Scove, so it's a big show tonight. Let's go ahead and, Gordon, bring us up to date on that. Roll that beautiful antenna footage, if you would.
All right. Well, thanks, John. And, I got to cleaning out the shack, and I found a couple of up-to-date antenna books. This is 1942 from the American Radio Relay League, 50 cents, quite an expensive book. And about 10 years after that, Radio Adventure, from a group in Provo, Utah, that was doing antennas. And they all talk about something that we're going to talk about here, and that is the dipole antenna. And as you know, the dipole antenna is a simple antenna, and many folks will be using that antenna for the Route 66. And by the way, that begins this weekend for a full week, and there will be plenty of folks on 40 meters with a dipole antenna. And you never know when we're going to show up. That's Chip K7JA and Gordo and Susie and Janet down at the beach. And many times we've considered the dipole antenna as yet another way to get a nice signal out on the 40-meter band. Well, the coaxial dipole antenna. And this is a broadband antenna. They sometimes call it the distributed capacity coaxial dipole. You can buy them for $80. You can build them for $8. And the antenna came out in the 50s at MIT. And of course, with all the hams at MIT, you know that the amateur radio operators are going to just embrace this technology. The 40-meter antenna is about a half wavelength long, each side a quarter wave. But notice that each side is broken up into like 1/8 waves. And the distributed capacity antenna is broadbanded. You can go from 7 to all the way to 7,300 with a very minimal SWR. And the best part about the distributed capacity antenna is for field day, it rejects all of the other bands, even harmonically related. It just hardly picks them up until the band of choice that you cut it for works. So it rejects other bands, little effects of trees. It's shunt fed to minimize static buildup on a windy day. The balun is built in. And best of all, for $8 and a little bit of twin lead or coax, you can make it. Now, the first thing to do is to measure out about 60 feet of coax, just to give yourself total. Actually, I did about 65 feet. And in the very center of the coax, you're going to expose the braid and cut the braid, but leave the center conductor intact as you make up the feed point. Now, this is not a great shot, but it's going to have to do. And I'm very happy to say that we've got a ham that has figured this all out. November 0 Alpha Juliet. His name is Jim, and you can go and look on the Google for distributed capacity dipoles, and he has an excellent shot of this. But the center part of the feed line is going to the left side of the antenna braid, and the right side of the antenna braid is connected to the feed line antenna braid. And we leave, what we do is we have to cut apart the braid side of the antenna itself very carefully, and you don't want to nick that, and you want to keep everything inside still connected. So what we're doing is we're severing the coax braid that's making up the 65 feet cut in the center, but we don't actually cut it. Yes, plenty of heat shrink is going to keep this antenna from absorbing water. This half-wave dipole antenna goes for about 1/8 of a wave, and then it gets shorted. And that's sort of an ugly short connection, but that illustrates the short that needs to be done. And then the far end is a shorted piece of coax at both ends, and that is where we're going to do a little bit of tuning if necessary. So the main portion is 16 feet 9 inches, and then we add 14 feet 9 inches, making it a quarter wave on the left side and a quarter wave on the other side. You can see that we've just put a little bit of solder there to make sure it's working. The feed line is coax. It's not window line. It's not any space line, ladder line. Nope, it's plain old 50 ohm coax. And most important, as we said last week, is make sure and not only solder the center connector, but make sure on your feed line that you've soldered the outside braid and that it's a good soldered all the way around. Here are different versions of that antenna, 80, 40, 20, 15, 10, and you, again, can just Google and look up distributed capacity coaxial dipole antenna, and if you see the call sign N0 Alpha Juliet, that's Jim. He has probably the best artwork on how to put it together. At each far end, you can use any kind of insulator. And when you go ahead and run the coax through the insulator, leave a little tag on it, because if you're too low in frequency, you just snip off that little bit of hang tag, and it's going to take you up about 50 kilohertz. Now we go ahead and we wrap it up. We take a look at it, and you can add your own choke. It's not a bound, really. It's a choke, and the choke is going to make sure that we don't have any RF coming down the feed line from this distributed capacity antenna. Radio waves, a leader in great antennas, loops and dipoles and off-center fed and distributed capacity antennas. They call them the double bazooka. But that's okay. It's very similar in design. They have it already made up, about $80, and it's a good deal. But look at this. That's for about $8, and I used old coax, and I got it strung up here. And on 40 meters, I was able to work all the way up into Oregon and Washington during the day, early morning hours on our 40-meter net with great results. So I encourage all of you to make sure that you sweep the antenna, and George is going to talk about the MFJ analyzer. And look at this. 7200, we're absolutely flat on SWR, and the impedance is about 45 ohms, just where we need it. That's going to be a wonderful match to our antenna. And I got on there bright and early in the morning and made loads of contacts. So we encourage all of you to consider the distributed capacity dipole. I was amazed on the net when I switched over from what would be a rotatable dipole on a Cushcraft, tall tower, Luma tower up, and I went to the distributed capacity 40-meter dipole. Everybody heard a noticeable difference, and the dipole was actually down at roof level. So if you're looking for a half-wave dipole antenna uniquely matched, where the balun is part of the feed point, and it looks shorted to a DC meter, do look up the distributed capacity dipole. Real simple to build, but when you see some of the websites, you'll see they build them up very, very deluxe. I just wanted to make sure it worked, and let me tell you, it kicked butt. So I hope all of you will consider the half-wave distributed capacity dipole. Look it up on the internet. So now I'm going to turn it back to either George or Don. We'll see who's going to get it next.
I think it'll be me because, you know, even though that's a fairly compact antenna, you still, you know, a yard would be handy to put that thing up in, as are most antennas. I mean, most of the really good ham radio operators are putting their antennas up in a yard of some sort. And, you know, to get a yard, you typically have to get a mortgage. And that's why Quicken Loans created Rocket Mortgage. You know that Rocket Mortgage is rated the #1 online mortgage lender by Inside Mortgage Finance? It's true. Let's talk about buying a home for a minute, and we'll get back to ham radio here in a little bit. Because of the rising interest rates, there's a whole lot of unpredictability when it comes to buying a home these days. It causes a lot of anxiety with folks. Well, our friends at Quicken Loans are doing something about that. They're calling it the power buying process, and it's pretty simple. Step 1, answer a few simple questions. They will check your credit for pre-qualified approval. Step number 2, Quicken Loans will verify your income, assets, and credit in less than 24 hours to give you a verified approval, which will give you the strength of a cash buyer. That's a key point, the strength of a cash buyer. Once you're verified, you qualify for their all-new exclusive Rate Shield approval. First thing they'll do is lock up your rate for up to 90 days while you shop. Now, here's the best part. If the rates go up, your rate stays the same. But if the rates go down, your rate also drops. So either way, you're a winner. It's the kind of thinking you would expect from America's largest mortgage lender. To get started, I want you to go to rocketmortgage.com/hamnation. Rate Shield approval is only valid on certain 30-year purchase transactions. Additional conditions or exclusions may apply based on Quicken Loans data in comparison to public data records. Equal housing lender licensed in all 50 states. NMLS ConsumerAccess.org number 3030. rocketmortgage.com/hamnation. And we thank Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans for their support of Ham Nation. Time now to get into what I believe is going to be the news of the week from Amateur Radio Newsline. From Amateur Radio Newsline report number 2131, these are the Ham Nation headlines for Wednesday, September 5th, 2018. With the recent earthquake in Venezuela and a hurricane in Hawaii, it's been a challenging time for hams involved in emergency communications.
A magnitude 7.3 earthquake rocked the northern coast of Venezuela and parts of the Caribbean on August 21st, and shockwaves could be felt as far east as Trinidad and Tobago, Barbados and Grenada, and as far west as Bogota, Colombia. The U.S. Coast and Geological Survey said that because of its depth of nearly 77 miles, the quake did not cause major damage or lead to any casualties in Caracas, but buildings were evacuated nonetheless. Scattered power outages were reported. The YV5RNE National Emergency Network of the Radio Club Venezolano activated on 7.088 megahertz, but officials later reported that there was no loss of life and damage was limited. Although cellular communications and scattered outages have been reported, HAM's networks functioned well on HF, VHF, and even Echolink. For Amateur Radio Newsline, I'm Kevin Trotman, N5PRE.
In Hawaii, emergency amateur radio operations became active after Hurricane Lane stormed into the region. Hawaii ARRL and the Salvation Army Emergency Radio Network were among those responding to keep communications open, and WinLink was used for formal handling of messages. Although the storm dumped as much as 19 inches of rain on parts of Hawaii's Big Island, the region was spared the worst of a direct hit, and the hurricane was downgraded to a tropical storm by the 24th of August. At Newsline production time, residents and hams alike were keeping an eye out for the next event on the horizon, Tropical Storm Miriam. For Amateur Radio Newsline, I'm Stephen Kinford, N8WB.
Should the ARRL rebrand itself to appeal to a new generation? The organization's president posed that possibility at a recent appearance in West Virginia.
The 60th annual West Virginia State ARRL Convention was held August 25th in central West Virginia at the WVU Jackson's Mill Conference Center near Weston. Highlight of the convention was an address by ARRL President Rick Roderick, K5UR. In his 45-minute keynote speech to a capacity crowd, President Roderick asked,
"Are we even relevant anymore as ham radio operators?" Well, let's see. We're world communicators. We provide public service. We help in emergencies and disasters. We help save lives. We talk to the jungles of Africa, to the beaches of the South Pacific. We bounce signals off the moon. We talk to astronauts. We promote technology. We do positive things. So absolutely, we are relevant. But we've got to accept change, and we've got to adapt if we're going to bridge that gap to that next generation. So the question that I have here, that I've challenged my colleagues with a lot with ARRL, is this. Is it time to rebrand ham radio? Maybe we need to rebrand the American Radio Relay League. That's a pretty profound statement. Maybe we need to rebrand the American Radio Relay League.
Roderick offered a closing challenge.
Well, I think we ought to get out there and stir things up. That's what I think we ought to do. I think you ought to go back and rejuvenate your club. Over the next year, get somebody into ham radio. The second thing I want you to do, I want you to help a ham that needs your help. And the third thing I want you to do, if you're not a member of the American Radio Relay League, you need to join today. Because you know what? Whether you like us or not, we're all you got. Ain't nobody else in Washington, D.C. helping us. And I want you to ask yourself this question. Don't you think it's time to give something back? Now, I believe as a group, if we all did that, we'll make a difference in this hobby as we go forward. Be a champion of ham radio. Let's work together and get it done. Thank you very much.
ARRL President Rick Roderick, K5UR. Reporting from Jackson's Mill, West Virginia for Amateur Radio Newsline, I'm Jim Dameron, N8TMW.
And that's all from the Amateur Radio Newsline, your independent source for amateur radio news for 4 decades and counting at arnewsline.org. With Kevin Trotman, N5PRE, Stephen Kenford, N8WB, Jim Dameron, N8TMW, Karen Eve Murray, KD2GUT at the news desk in New York, and our news team across the globe. I'm Don Wellbanks, AE5DW. 7-3. We'll see you next time here on Ham Nation. Now, here's the solar update with Dr. Tamitha Skov, WX6SWW.
The space weather may be quiet now, but we have back-to-back chances for some solar storming that could bring us some decent aurora. That story and more in the Shorty this week. The sun may be spotless and space weather may be quiet this week, but that doesn't mean nothing's going on. We have 2 coronal holes that are rotating into the Earth view right now, and they're sandwiching a remnant bright region, which, sorry to say, isn't doing all that much to boost the solar flux, so radio propagation continues to be poor on the Earth's day side. But these 2 regions will give us 2 chances for a solar storming here in the next week. Now, the first one of these regions will be rotating into the Earth strike zone here around September 5th, and it's be sending us some fast wind that could bring us aurora down to high latitudes, probably not make it down to mid latitudes. But the second one that will come about 3 to 5 days later, that one has a much bigger chance, according to Stereo, has a much bigger chance of bringing us some aurora for a very short time, but it could actually reach down to mid latitudes. Switching to our solar storm conditions and aurora possibilities over the coming week, we are anticipating the hit from the fast wind coming from that first of 2 coronal holes, and it should hit us around midweek and possibly give us a chance for aurora. At high latitudes, NOAA is expecting unsettled to active conditions with a decent chance of a minor storm. Now, at mid latitudes, we're still only expecting unsettled conditions with about a 15% chance of active conditions, and then things will settle down here for a couple days, and then around the 10th, we could get another chance when that second pocket of fast wind from that second coronal hole hits us. Switching to your solar flare and particle radiation storm outlook over the coming week, everything is in the green when it comes to solar flares because we have a spotless sun. This makes you GPS operators very happy because we have no risk for radio blackouts right now. But it does mean the solar flux has dropped back below the 70s, so we are now back into poor radio propagation for amateur radio operators and emergency responders. And unfortunately, this trend will continue easily over the next week because the sun continues to be spotless. However, we do see a bright region rotating into stereo view right now. So in the long view, in about maybe 10 days or so, if nothing emerges on the Earth-facing sun, we could be seeing another bright region rotate into Earth view for you guys. So it'll boost the solar flux back up into maybe even marginal conditions. Now, also because we're dealing with a solar minimum sun, we do have the cosmic ray background penetrating into the upper atmosphere far more than normal. So all you frequent flyers and air crew that fly more than 800 hours annually and typically fly at high altitudes and high latitudes, you are now in marginal conditions for radiation dose, so please take this into consideration in your flight plans. So despite a spotless sun, there's a lot going on this week. We have 2 coronal holes that have rotated into Earth view, and that gives us 2 chances for some solar storming. The first one could start as early as tomorrow, right around midweek, and this could bring us aurora only down to about high latitudes, but it won't last very long. And then the second one could come back in about 5 days, and that one actually could bring us aurora chances down to mid-latitudes, but again, for only a short little while. So aurora photographers, keep your batteries charged and stay on your toes because these chances won't last all that long. Now, GPS operators, you guys have got to be extremely happy because we have no chance for radio blackouts with a completely spotless sun, so your reception on Earth's day side will be good. Now, just stay away from the aurora and the dawn dust terminators during the storming, and you should have some pretty decent reception all the way around. However, amateur radio operators and emergency responders, well, things aren't so great for you right now. We're dealing, of course, with the spotless sun, and that means that solar flux has tanked. And it doesn't look too good right now, even for the next week. But if we take the long view and we take a look at what stereo's showing us, then in about 10 days, in worst case scenario, we will have a new region that'll be rotating into Earth view, and that could boost the solar flux back up and give us a little boost to propagation. I'm Tamitha Skov. Thank you for watching.
Yeah, she's right about the solar conditions monkeying up the HF. I was listening to the Hurricane WatchNet on 7268 last night and just having a rough time. It didn't last long. Thankfully, the hurricane or tropical storm came in as a tropical storm, and there really wasn't any big damage that I heard of, even over around Mobile and Florida Panhandle. It was bad over there. Good stuff for us, though. Didn't bother us around New Orleans at all, which is thankful. Of course, you need to follow Dr. T on Twitter at Tamitha Skov, WX6SWW there. She's got her license, you know. She tweets all the time, very, very timely with her tweets. And there's the website, spaceweatherwoman.com. So good to have her on our team. We are definitely blessed to have someone of her caliber on our team. Now let's switch over to a video from our friend Paul Fry, K9 PTF. He is, you see him at all the big Hamfest. I believe he was at Dayton. We saw him at the MFJ Saturday in the Park thing for the 45th anniversary of MFJ. And we also see him at Huntsville every year, and he shoots some pretty good video. So let's take a look at what he's got for us now.
This is K9 PTF Paul in Chelsea, Alabama, and I'm off to the Huntsville, Alabama Hamfest, August 17th, 18th, and 19th. It was wet when I got there, and Bob Heil was working the crowds at the Embassy Suite. People were gearing up for the next day's opening. Hams and families enjoyed breakfast, while Don, AE5DW, and Ray from Icom discussed various topics. WJ5Z was there, too. Business was brisk at the ticket sales, and the barrel was busy. W4GLE made it and had a scooter. W5KUB was there. Vendors were happy to show their wares. J-Van from the ARRL and Roger before, sale, and after. Robots and projects for the kids, and Mars. Oh, and Young Ham of the Year, KG5HVO from Montgomery, Alabama. Tom Kelly gets a QSL card, and people came from all over the U.S. You could even start planning for 2019 before the next Huntsville Hamfest. So plan on coming next year and enjoy the friendship.
Favorite fest, even I think I like it better than I like Dayton. Haven't been to Orlando yet, though, so I can't say it's my absolute favorite. I may fall in love with Orlando. You never know. But Huntsville has a soft spot in my heart. So let's, speaking of soft spots in my heart, everybody loves Amanda. Let's go see what she's got going on tonight.
You know, at the top of the show, Hurricane Gordon was not here. It's here. I mean, the winds were just blowing like 5 minutes after the top of the show, and now it's pouring like crazy out there. Crazy how quick it rolled in.
You're getting the remnants of Tropical Storm Gordon. Good. Well, I don't know about you. I know my sister in Wichita Falls can use the rain. It's been like 110 degrees there, so she's thrilled, A, that we missed it, and B, that she's getting it. So I see you're getting a little bit of it.
Yeah,
too.
a lot of winds. It's really windy right now. So, all right. Well, hey, this week I've got really good news to report for those of you who haven't heard. Last Man Standing's coming back on the air at the end of the month, September 28th. Woo! Yeah, and here's a little video all about that. We're happy to say that one of our favorite TV shows, Last Man Standing, starring Tim Allen, is returning to the air. As you recall, the show was canceled by ABC last year, but will return Friday nights in the 8 o'clock, 7 Central time slot. The show will now be seen on 20th Century Fox Television Network.
I'm back!
Tim Allen stars as Mike Baxter, who is a ham with a fictitious call sign, Kilo Alpha Zero X-Ray Tango Tango. Not only does Tim play a ham on TV, but it's official. He went out and he got his license, so he's a ham in real life as well.
Mike, KA0XTT. Just a little shout out. Anybody having a good time here on Thanksgiving? Anybody hiding in their basement to avoid their relatives?
He's a natural. Now, all of the radios on the set are real and connected to antennas on the roof of the stage in Studio City, California. Now, the show tapes most Tuesdays, and during their dinner break, the members of the Last Man Standing Amateur Radio Club get on the radio to make contacts with their fans. And what's the call sign of the Last Man Standing Amateur Radio Club? Kilo Alpha 6, Last Man Standing. And here's a bunch of the crew getting their license. And here's a ham talking with Laura, one of the crew members.
This is KA6 LMS, Studio City, QRZ. November Victor 9 Lima.
Yeah, November Victor 9 Lima. Hey, Laura.
Hi, is this Valerie?
It is. How you doing?
Good. I'm looking at your card here on the wall. Thank you for the contact. You sound great.
Yeah, you guys are really loud here, but I got a 6/6/6 lobster stack pointed right at your head, so you sound good. Keep up the good work.
We're on a dipole.
Okay, yeah, we're on a dipole here.
Very good, very good. Well, keep it up. Have fun.
The show does tape in front of a live studio audience, so I'm thinking a road trip might be in order on this one. The KA6 LMS station is very well equipped, and it centers on an Icom IC7610 for HF and an IC5100 for VHF, UHF, and D-Star. There it is there. They also have a Heil PR781 microphone for the HF rig, and they have a Pro 7 headset for when the stage gets a little too noisy. The show has an LDG AT600 Pro antenna tuner in the work office. SWR and power are monitored by an Array Solutions Power Master 2, SWR power meter placed before the antenna tuner, and a Daiwa CN801 HP SWR power meter placed after the tuner. There's a Vibroplex Deluxe iambic paddle for the club members and occasional special guest operators who prefer CW. The radio desk also features a Green Heron RT21 antenna rotator controller and an Alpha Delta Delta 4B coax switch. Their Ameritron ALS 5000 amplifier can be seen in the Baxter Basement Ham Shack. This is a non-working prop specially made for the show by Ameritron because there is actually no ALS 5000. On the roof of the historic Stage 9 is a Comet GP1 VHF UHF vertical and a Radio Waves 4020 meter fan dipole. LMR 400 coax cable is used to minimize the loss between the sets and the stage roof. Kilo Alpha 6, Last Man Standing, gets on the air many, but not all Tuesdays around 23:30 UTC, and the show always posts their intended operations on the KA6 LMS Facebook page, so make sure you guys join that one. Successful contacts can just send a self-addressed stamped envelope to the QRZ address for a special QSL card. So set your calendars for September 28th, Friday night, 8, 7 Central, right before the cool kids on 20th Century Fox Television Network. And one thing I did want to mention, the show request that fans do not send in any ham radio-related storylines as any kind of ideas for them to use, because they cannot use outside sources. So if you were to send in an idea, they can't use it, and it would prevent the show from ever using that idea. So don't send them your ideas, okay? Hopefully they'll think them up on their own. So also, we've got a lot of contests coming up. I think I have a slide on that one if you want to show that, Victor. We're getting ready, going into contest season here. This weekend, we've got World Europe on sideband. So if you have some holes in your DXCC count and you need to get some more Europeans, get on the air this weekend. They'll be all over the place. Ohio State Parks on the air is this weekend, as well as the ARRL VHF contest. That's a big one. And the North America Sprint CW, which is just a 4-hour contest, very fast. Next weekend, here we go, contest season. You got the Collegiate QSO Party, the Scandinavian Activity Contest, and Iowa, New Hampshire, and New Jersey QSO parties, as well as the North America Sprint RIDI contest. So a lot of stuff coming up to keep you busy on the weekends. Also, we've got some conventions coming up. If you want to show the next slide, Victor. The 15th is W9DXCC, so if you're kind of getting into DXing and you're somewhere near the Chicago area, it's not too late to register and go. Walk-ins are also welcome. Also, the 6-meter barbecue is the 21st through the 22nd. If you want interested in to learn more about that, it's 6meterbarbecue.com. And the 22nd, W4DXCC, and that's in Pigeon Forge. And that's a great DX convention. Just go to W4DXCC.com. I'm going to be at the W9DXC and W4DXCC. Maybe next year I'll make the 6-meter barbecue, because that sounds like fun. That's all I've got for conventions, and that's all I've got for this week. Get ready. 2 weeks from now, I will be live from WTWW. Also, I'm going to tell you more about a special event station that they're going to be operating in Puerto Rico, because September 20th is actually the 1-year anniversary of when Hurricane Maria made landfall in Puerto Rico. And as you know, I, along with 21 others, were activated there as part of the Force of 50. And got to fly here. And so we arrived around the 28th. So that special event station is going to be the 20th through the 28th, and they have the call sign Kilo 1 Maria, because that's a call sign we used when we were down there. So look for more information on that. I'll have that for you in 2 weeks. So that's all I've got. Back to you, Don.
We better get to a little word from Icom before we get to George, and then we'll see what he's got up his sleeve. Probably a soldering iron.
Heard it, worked it, logged it. It's time to get the transceiver that's best suited for your lifestyle. Icom offers a variety of high-performance and innovative products. See how you can make the most out of contest season with these transceivers. The competitive edge you've been looking for, raise the bar and hear what others cannot with this flagship HF 50 MHz transceiver, the IC7851. Reciprocal mixing dynamic range, crystal clear local oscillator design, spectrum scope, dual receivers, and digital voice recorder. The IC7610 is the SDR every ham wants, and just in time for contesting season. This high-performance SDR has the ability to pick out the faintest signals, even in the presence of stronger adjacent signals. The new Icom IC7610 is a direct sampling, software-defined radio that will change the world's definition of a SDR transceiver. RF direct sampling, 110 RMDR, independent dual receiver, dual digicell. IC7300 is changing the way entry-level HF is designed. This high-performance innovative HF transceiver with a compact design will far exceed your expectations. RF direct sampling, 15 discrete bandpass filters, large 4.3-inch color touchscreen, real-time spectrum scope, and SD memory card slot. Visit icomamerica.com/amateur for more information on all the great Icom radios. And you can tune in and enter to win. After each episode of Ham Nation, go to icomamerica.com/hamnation. Register to win some great swag prizes like T-shirts and hats. While you're there, learn how you can win in the monthly grand prize drawing for a new radio. And we've got a winner for August. It's James, KM4USC. He won the Icom ID 51A Plus 2 VHF UHF D-Star Portable. For September, though, we've got another radio. It's the Icom ID 5100A VHF UHF Dual Band D-Star Transceiver. It's got a large touchscreen display, simultaneous FM-FM, FM-DV, or DV-DV dual watch receiver. It has built-in GPS, and there's an available UT133 Bluetooth board that works with the free downloadable RS MS1A Android app. So go to icomamerica.com/HamNation. After this in each episode of Ham Nation and register to win. Sign up, good luck, and don't forget to follow Icom America Inc. on Facebook and Twitter. And another radio we're giving away is the IC 7300 sitting right here in front of me, along with some other great prizes. It's MFJ power supply, a Howl Sound ICM microphone, the Howl Sound new BM17 headset, as well as some of Gordo's books, and coax. And we're even going to sweeten the pot. We've got some of the genuine faux gold PL259 connectors here. It's the last in the series that I've got, so we're going to throw in a pair of those as well. If you want to learn more about that, how you might win it, go to amateurlogic.tv/contest. You'll get all the details there on the 13th anniversary sweepstakes we're holding there. Thanks, Icom, Howl Sound, MFJ, and Gordo for making that possible. Well, this week I was going to, I'm going to try to do it anyway. We're just going to have to see how this works out. I'm on a webcam now because, I don't know, we had some problems with the with Skype tonight, and this is the best I could get working. Unfortunately, I was going to do some explaining and demonstrating here with an antenna analyzer and some antennas. And it was working great where I could switch my other camera down here to look at it. You know, when you got little antennas around a lot of metal and stuff, sometimes things change. So we're just going to have to try this. If it doesn't work out, well, it didn't work out. I've got 3 different antennas here. The first one I've got is the one that comes standard with the Icom ID 51A handheld. It's a little short rubber duck antenna here. Second one I got is the, what is this? It's the FAS270E. This is a longer antenna that also came with my ID 51A 50th anniversary special edition. You can see it's about twice as tall as the standard handy talkie. It's got a loading coil in the middle. This antenna, there's a huge difference. This is the best handy talkie antenna I've ever used before. And then I've got one more. This came from MFJ. This is a real soft little rubber, flexible rubber duck antenna. I use this with my digital hotspot for D-Star or DRM or whatever. Just a little short, cheap antenna, works great right around the shack here for hotspot use. And, well, let's look at this. Here's the antenna analyzer. Yeah, if we can see it, all right, we're going to screw the first antenna on. This is the antenna that's standard with the ID 51A. If we look here at the SWR, which I have difficulty seeing from here. Yep. This is not going to work out because it's showing a pretty good SWR, 1.4, 1.5 to 1. What I was going to show, if I add a 19.5-inch counterpoise here, you've heard people call these tiger tails before. It's just a little, a little counterpoise, 19.5 inches, you can add that to your handy-talkie, and generally you're going to get a little better range out of it. I was trying to see the difference on the VSWR here. I can't see it because I'm so far away from the monitor. So I don't know if it came up or down. When I had the analyzer sitting over here away from the metal, you could see a definite difference on it. Victor, can you zoom in on that a little bit? Okay. Didn't really seem to make that much difference here. It's 1.3, it looks like, 1.4 with it on there. Take it off, it stays about the same. So not a huge difference with that antenna. I'll tell you, when I had it away from this other metal, though, it was quite a difference. It was like a 2-to-1, and it brought it down to 1.4 when I put the little counterpoise on there. All right, this is the little MFJ antenna. All right, 2.4 VSWR there. Let's hook in our little counterpoise wire. Don't see much change there, 2.3. Yeah, so this experiment, well, there we go. I raised it up off of the radio below it here. You know, I'm not really sure this experiment is going to work out live here tonight. I tried, but basically what I found out, when all of these are in the clear and you're not next to metal, if I use the stock antenna, I had about a 2-to-1 VSWR. If I added on the 19.5-inch counterpoise here, just to let it hang down from ground there on the handy-talkie, right on the antenna connection, it brought it down to like a 1.4, 1.5 SWR. So a good improvement there. If I used it with this little MFJ antenna, then this one right here, it had a pretty high VSWR. It was almost a 3-to-1. When I added the little counterpoise wire to it, it brought it down to, well, it was about 1.8 to 1. However, this longer one here, this one that came with my anniversary edition radio, it didn't make really any difference on it. It was just fine like it was by itself, no counterpoise wire. Now, that's not saying how far you're going to reach or how good a performance you're going to get out of each of these antennas just based on the VSWR, but it does have an effect on it. And I wish I could show you here tonight, but, you know, it's hard to do indoors. If we were outdoors or in the clear like I was over here on the side of the table earlier, we'd see a substantial difference when we added that. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. That little 19.5-inch tiger tail or counterpoise wire or whatever you want to call it does really make a difference. If you add it on your handy-talkie, you will see the signal strength come up on the repeaters or whatever you're trying to receive or talk to. And you'll also see the change on VSWR. Now, there again, all of this is different. You see, this is a big piece of metal here, the MFJ 259B antenna analyzer. Your little handy-talkie is going to be a little different than this would. What brought me up to thinking about this is I had a question from a guy this week. He emailed me, and I don't have his name and call sign in front of me, but he had built a quarter wave telescopic mast built as just a dipole. And he had a counterpoise on the ground down there. He ran the coax into his garage. He tuned it up using an analyzer for, he said he had 1.4 to 1 VSWR, which is really good. But when he hooked it up to his rig and tried transmitting, the VSWR was off scale. And so I was just trying to do a little experimenting here. Of course, yeah, it's going to be different with a little short VHF antenna than it is with an HF antenna. But what I was trying to prove is, does it make a difference, the ground system that's on the analyzer? And I've noticed before it does. So if you've got a situation like that to where you got things looking good on the analyzer by itself, But when you hook it up to the radio, it's just not good. You see totally different results. Try attaching just a little small ground from the ground terminal there on the analyzer to the ground on the back of your rig there. Make it short. And I think you'll see that you get different readings when you do that. And actually, you want it to be as close as you can to what you're actually going to be operating with. So if you're not getting good results or the results are varying, try that trick right there, and that might do it for you. I've even seen that make a difference in a mobile before. So anyway, that's all I've got for that tonight. I do have some stuff to give away, though. Last week I asked a question out of Gordo's General Class Amateur Radio Study Guide here. This is a question we had on the episode of Ham College we shot last weekend. Which of the following applies when selecting a frequency for lowest attenuation when transmitting on HF? Do you select a frequency just below the muff, select a frequency just above the muff, select a frequency just below the critical frequency, or a frequency just above the critical frequency? Well, the answer was A, select a frequency just above the muff. So we're going to be sending to the winner one of Gary Drash's Ham Radio is Alive and Well books here. And let me see, do I have the winner's name in front of me? I don't think I do. Got kind of disorganized here with the chaos earlier. But we'll look up the winner real quick, choose one, and he'll win a copy of Ham Radio's Alive and Well from Gary Drash, K9DJT. For next week, I am going to give away one of Gordo's books, though. Your choice of either the general or the extra class. We're going to take a little tougher question now. We're going to take it out of the extra class book here. And let's see what the question will be. What type of coordinate system is used in a Smith chart? Is it voltage circles and current arcs? Is it resistance circles and reactance arcs? Is it voltage lines and current cords? Or is it resistance lines and reactance cords? If you think you know the answer to that, send it to me, hamnationcontest@gmail.com, and we might be sending you, or actually Gordo might be sending you, one of his fine study guides here. And that's all I've got for tonight. So let's go on to Amanda and see what's going on in the chat room.
Hey, George, real quick, did we announce that James D, KM4 USC, won the ID 51A plus 2 from Icom? I don't know if we mentioned that. We got to mention that.
Yeah, we did mention that, but now we've mentioned it twice. So congratulations, James.
I missed it. I was apparently deafened by your awesomeness.
Oh, it happens.
I don't know what happened. I'm not sure what happened. But anyway, the ID 5100A Deluxe for September. So good stuff. Get in there. Go to icomamerica.com/hamnation and get registered. What's going on, Amanda?
Oh, I can see that Hurricane Gordo has taken it all out of you, Don.
Oh, it was a tropical storm. I wish people quit saying hurricane. It wasn't a hurricane. It was 4 miles away from being a hurricane. It was a tropical storm.
All right. Well, you know what? I think it hit here, too. I know Val said it's there, but I'm looking at my Davis weather station, and 91 hundredths in the last 45 minutes. It's pouring outside. It never rains in Colorado, ever.
Could be.
It's ridiculous. And yeah, the power is flashing quite a bit. So, wow, I think it is Hamfest season, you guys. I have a lot of Hamfest announcements, and it must be. All right. So we have the Wyoming High Plains Roundup, which is a weekend campout surrounded by the beautiful scenery of southeastern Wyoming. That does sound awesome.
It
September
does.
7th through the 9th. I would love to go to that. If I had known about it sooner, I might have made plans. Let's see. Also, the Wyoming Hamfest and the ARRL 2018 Wyoming Section Convention is in Rock Springs, Wyoming, September 14th through the 16th. Again, a great place to go visit. Another Hamfest alert. We have September 9th, the Saratoga County Amateur Radio Association Hamfest at Saratoga County Fairgrounds in Ballston Spa, New York. Check it out. Google it. Find out where you can go for that. Another one, Greater Louisville, Kentucky Hamfest is this weekend, September 8th. Yes, that's all the info I have on that. And this one Andy asked me to mention this special event station. And Andy, I am going to chop this up so bad, it's not even funny. So Valerie, you had mentioned you were going to talk about K1M. If you want to mention it and be able to pronounce everything correctly, would you like to take this one?
I don't have the wording for it. I mean, are you talking about some of the towns like Oaxaca and Quebradillo?
Yes. Yeah. I feel so stupid.
Yeah.
If I had previous announcements of this, I might have looked it up to learn how to pronounce. So I have like Agodilla, Lares, San Juan, and
Lares,
and Mayegas, what?
Yeah.
Okay, Mayegas, Puerto Rico. Andy, I'm so sorry. We should have just had Carmen come on here and tell us what it was. Dang it. So that's K1M, and they're going to be having their special event station from September 20th to the 28th, and I think Val's going to bring us more information about that later on. So look out for them.
On the 20th or the 19th, I'll bring up more information. And you sound just like I did when I first got to Puerto Rico. So
the weird, the same thing goes with Wisconsin names, though. You guys know all this stuff. Waukesha and Waukesha. Yeah. I kill it all. All right. Let's see. I do have a real question here. Let me get to it. George, this one was actually for Gordo, but I'm sure you can take this one. Is there a particular size coax best suited for the capacitance dipole?
You know, I don't know the answer to that, but I think any 50 ohm coax would work for that. But don't quote me because I've never built one of those. I would think, though, probably you'd use RG58 or RG8X. If you went to RG8, you know, that's getting kind of heavy and big. So probably 58 would probably be fine, I would think.
I'd agree with that. Any good mobile sized coax that you have laying around should work good for that. Yeah.
Agree. And don't make it bigger than it has to be. You don't want to lug that around and manage to put kinks in it while you're trying to hook it up. So
exactly.
One other thing, the Whiskey 6 Tango special event station is going to be a rover, and he didn't say it, but I think that's for the Route 66 special event. So they're going to be roving. They're going to be in Flagstaff at this Flagstaff station for a while. Easy for me to say. And Twin Arrows on the east side of Flagstaff. So look for them during the Route 66. And let me see one other thing. Sorry, trying to look through my notes here. We were having almost power outages, and we have this big generator that's hooked up to the house to fall over when we have power outages. And I gave Jeff crap for a really long time about spending $2,500 to have this whole system hooked up. And I said, we're never going to use it. This is Colorado. We live in like the plains. We're never going to have that power outage. And tonight, I swear, the power flickered at least 7 times before I was called up, and it was nearly going out. And I was like, oh, thank you for having that set up. So anyhow, Jeff got he wins, I lose, whatever. All right. Chumley wants to know, what about the chat may know about the dipole before going to George, but nobody answered this. The insulator, do the wraps around that count as length or just from the first wrap to the top? George, want to take that?
If I understand the question, just from the first length to the top, I think so. Yeah, what's wrapped back around, I don't think you count that. Now, one thing that someone mentioned over in the chat room, let me see if I can, I can't find the name now. But yeah, it is important, the velocity factor of that coax. So choose one that has a velocity factor of 77 because that will change. So you might not want to use just generic coax if you can help it. Try to find one that, you can determine what the velocity factor is. 77.
All right. Chumley, I hope that answered your question. If not, we'll have Gordo back on next week and we can ask him again. With that, that's all I really have tonight. Let's go over the nets. I actually have not seen neither Kevin or Steve on chat to tell us that the 40 and 20 meter nets are on, but I would say look around 7190 and 14268 for the HF nets. And we'll have TAC 311 for the DMR net. And D-Star, of course, will always be on 14 Charlie, where we have the nicest net controls ever. And it's usually the only net I join in on. I won't be on 40 or 20 tonight, obviously. And Echolink, did you drop in? Join there as well. That's all I have. Back to you, Don.
I see in the chat room 7192 for the 40 meter net. So there you go. Close enough. Yeah. We try to keep it right around the same area, plus or minus a little QRM or whatever. So there you go. All right. We've had a good night tonight. And I believe Bob will be back next week. He's actually been in Hawaii the last couple of weeks. He went to a wedding out there. I had a family member get married, and they did it in Hawaii. So there you go. If you got to have an excuse to go to paradise, that's as good a one as you'll find. So there you go. Thank you all for being here tonight. So for Gordon and for Val and for George and for Amanda and for Victor back at Twit Control, we'll see you again here next Wednesday night here on most of this same Twit network. So 7-3 all, and we'll see you later. Thanks for being here. Good night, everybody.